Talent is the biggest lie you've been sold. If you're still waiting to feel ready, still waiting to feel motivated, you're already falling behind people who aren't smarter than you. Because in the next few minutes, you'll understand why consistency, not intelligence, is what actually builds power, and how the people you think are gifted are quietly being outplayed. The lie of talent, why consistency beats intelligence. Talent is overrated, not because it doesn't exist, but because it doesn't survive pressure. People admire intelligence. They celebrate natural ability. They assume the smartest person will dominate the room. And in the beginning, that often looks true. The talented move faster. They grasp concepts quicker. They attract attention easily. But watch closely what happens after the applause fades. The gifted rely on momentum. When motivation dips, so does their output. When recognition slows, their discipline weakens. Their performance fluctuates with emotion. And fluctuation is instability. Now here's the part nobody talks about. The average individual who shows up every single day, without excitement, without validation, without drama, begins gaining something more dangerous than talent. They gain rhythm. Rhythm creates structure. Structure creates repetition. Repetition creates incremental advantage. Small improvements stack. Skill sharpens. Confidence stabilizes. While the talented pause, the consistent continue. And continuation is lethal over time. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this principle long before modern productivity culture. Power is not secured by brilliance. It is secured by pattern. When your effort becomes predictable, your growth becomes inevitable. Here's the psychological shift. People admire intelligence temporarily. They respect reliability permanently. Because reliability signals threat. It signals endurance. It signals someone who cannot be easily disrupted. Talent shines once. Consistency compounds silently. And compounding is invisible until it becomes overwhelming. The person who keeps executing while others wait for inspiration slowly takes territory. In the short term, talent looks superior. In the long term, discipline wins positioning. And positioning, once established, becomes control. The real weapon isn't how sharp you are. It's how long you refuse to stop. Power is built in silence. Why daily action goes unnoticed. Most people want visible progress. They want applause. They want acknowledgement. They want proof that their effort is working. That craving exposes them. Real power rarely announces itself while it's forming. In the early phase of consistency, nothing looks impressive. There is no dramatic transformation. No viral moment, no sudden recognition, just repetition that seems almost boring from the outside. And that is exactly why it works. When progress is loud, it attracts competition. When growth is flashy, it invites comparison. But when improvement happens quietly, it avoids resistance. Niccolo Machiavelli understood the value of silent positioning. If your advancement is obvious, rivals prepare. If your development is underestimated, you gain ground without interference. Daily action feels small in isolation. One session, one refinement, one incremental move. Individually, each step looks insignificant. Collectively, they reshape capability. Here's the psychological edge. Most people quit during the invisible phase. They mistake lack of attention for lack of progress. They equate silence with stagnation. That misinterpretation removes them from the game early. But the disciplined individual understands something different. The absence of noise is not absence of growth. While others chase validation, they accumulate leverage. While others measure themselves against external reactions, they measure against internal standards. Silence protects momentum. It allows focus without distraction. It builds skill without pressure. It strengthens identity without dependence on approval. And when the results finally surface, they appear sudden. Observers call it overnight success. In reality, it was protected repetition. The most dangerous progress is the one nobody tracks. Because by the time people notice it, the gap is already established. Daily action does not need witnesses. It needs continuity. And continuity, sustained long enough, becomes authority. Power, is not built in public. It is constructed quietly, then revealed when it is too late to compete. The psychological advantage of showing up relentlessly. Most people underestimate what repetition does to the mind. They think consistency is about productivity. It's not. It's about psychological positioning. When you show up relentlessly, not emotionally, not dramatically, but predictably, something shifts internally first. Your brain begins to associate action with identity. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop waiting for the right mood. The act becomes automatic. And automation is dangerous. Because once effort becomes non-negotiable, external resistance loses power. Criticism doesn't slow you. Fatigue doesn't derail you. Distraction becomes background noise instead of a decision point. Now look at it from the outside. When others observe relentless presence, they begin recalibrating their perception of you. At first, they ignore it. Then they question it. Eventually, they respect it. Consistency creates psychological pressure on competitors. Why? Because it removes uncertainty. If you appear occasionally, people assume you might disappear. If you appear every single day, doubt dissolves. And when doubt dissolves, so does hesitation in your own decision-making. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that predictability in execution builds credibility. Credibility builds influence. Influence reshapes hierarchy. The advantage is subtle. Relentless action conditions your nervous system to tolerate discomfort. The things that used to feel heavy begin to feel routine. The tasks that once required motivation become mechanical. That shift compounds. While others debate whether they feel like it, you've already executed. While others reset their plans, you've added another layer of refinement. Over time, this creates psychological asymmetry. You trust yourself more. Others underestimate you longer. That combination is powerful. Relentlessness is not about speed. It's about inevitability. And inevitability, sustained long enough, turns presence into dominance. If you're serious about mastering this level of psychological discipline, drop the word consistency in the comments and make sure you subscribe, because this only gets sharper from here. How consistency breaks stronger opponents over time. Strength intimidates in the beginning. A smarter competitor, a more experienced rival, someone with better resources. At first glance, they look impossible to defeat. Their advantage is visible. Their confidence is obvious. Their momentum feels overwhelming. But here's what most people misunderstand. Strength fades when it isn't maintained. Consistency doesn't. A powerful opponent often relies on bursts, intense effort, short-term dominance, strategic aggression, and for a while that works. They win early rounds. They attract attention. They set the pace. Then they slow. Because intensity without structure burns energy quickly. It demands emotion. It demands urgency. It demands constant stimulation. Consistency operates differently. It doesn't spike. It endures. While the stronger opponent accelerates and decelerates, the consistent individual moves at a stable rate. No dramatic leaps. No dramatic collapses. Just controlled progression. Over time, this creates friction. The stronger rival expects resistance to break. When it doesn't, frustration begins. They increase pressure. They push harder. But steady opposition does not crack under pressure. It absorbs it. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this dynamic in political warfare. An enemy who cannot be provoked into mistakes becomes exhausting to fight. When you refuse to disappear, refuse to slow, refuse to react impulsively, you force stronger opponents into emotional expenditure, and emotional expenditure weakens judgment. Consistency is psychologically draining to compete against, because it does not respond to intimidation. It does not respond to comparison. It does not respond to temporary defeat. It simply continues. And continuation changes the equation. The stronger opponent begins calculating differently. They realize you are not a temporary obstacle. You are a permanent presence. That awareness shifts hierarchy. Over time, bursts lose power against endurance. The competitor who once looked dominant begins losing leverage, not because you outperformed them instantly, but because you outlasted them strategically. And in long-term positioning, endurance breaks strength. Reputation through repetition. Why predictable effort creates fear. Reputation is not built on one performance. It is built on repetition. Most people believe reputation comes from a breakthrough moment, a single win, a public achievement, something dramatic that forces attention. That creates visibility. It does not create fear. Fear develops differently. It forms when your behavior becomes predictable in one specific way. You do not stop. When people observe consistent execution over time, they begin adjusting their expectations. At first, they ignore it. Then they acknowledge it. Eventually, they assume it. That assumption is powerful. When your effort becomes expected, others start calculating around it. They factor you into their decisions. They plan with your presence in mind. And when someone must constantly account for you, you've entered their strategic awareness. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that predictability in commitment is more intimidating than unpredictability in emotion. Emotional unpredictability looks unstable. Behavioral consistency looks inevitable. And inevitability creates pressure. If you show up once, people dismiss it. If you show up twice, they call it effort. If you show up relentlessly, they call it identity. Identity shifts perception. Now your actions are no longer seen as temporary ambition. They are seen as permanent structure, and permanent structures are difficult to confront. This is where fear quietly develops. Calculated fear, the kind that makes competitors think twice before engaging, the kind that makes observers assume you will outlast them, the kind that builds psychological weight around your name. Repetition signals endurance. Endurance signals stability. Stability signals threat, because someone who cannot be shaken, distracted, or discouraged becomes expensive to challenge. Reputation does not need noise. It needs continuity. And when your continuity becomes predictable, your presence stops being optional. It becomes unavoidable. That is when effort turns into influence. And influence, sustained long enough, turns into controlled power. Emotional discipline, acting when motivation is dead. Motivation is unreliable. It feels powerful in the beginning. It gives energy. It creates momentum. But it fades quickly. And when it fades, most people slow down with it. That is the weak point. If your actions depend on how you feel, your progress depends on circumstances. Some days you will dominate. Other days you will disappear. And that inconsistency destroys positioning. Emotional discipline works differently. It does not ask whether you are inspired. It does not negotiate with your mood. It does not wait for excitement to return. It executes anyway. This is where separation begins. When motivation dies, excuses multiply. Fatigue becomes louder. Doubt becomes convincing. The brain starts offering alternatives that feel reasonable. Rest tomorrow. Restart next week. Reset next month. And most people accept that internal argument. The disciplined individual does not. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that control begins internally. If you cannot govern your impulses, you cannot govern outcomes. Emotional discipline means recognizing resistance without obeying it. You acknowledge the lack of desire. You acknowledge the discomfort, and you proceed regardless. Over time, this rewires identity. You stop identifying as someone who acts when inspired. You begin identifying as someone who acts because it is required. That shift is subtle, but powerful. When others depend on emotional momentum, you depend on structure. Structure does not collapse when feelings fluctuate. It remains intact. This creates advantage during low periods. While competitors wait for the right state of mind, you accumulate ground. While they reset after burnout, you maintain baseline output. The difference compounds. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is a system, and systems outlast sparks. When you act even when motivation is absent, you eliminate emotional dependency. You become stable under pressure. You become predictable in execution. And predictable execution, sustained long enough, becomes dominance. Compounding influence, small moves, permanent positioning. Influence rarely arrives dramatically. It accumulates. Most people look for large opportunities, big breakthroughs, visible leaps that change their position instantly. They ignore the minor decisions that seem too small to matter. That mistake keeps them stagnant. Compounding influence begins with actions that appear insignificant. A daily refinement, a quiet improvement in skill, a consistent presence in the same arena. None of it looks impressive on its own. But repetition transforms weight. When small moves are executed consistently, they stack beneath the surface. Your competence sharpens gradually. Your understanding deepens. Your confidence stabilizes. These shifts are subtle at first, almost invisible. Then perception changes. Others begin noticing your reliability. They begin associating you with stability. That association grows stronger every time you deliver without interruption. Trust builds incrementally, and trust converts into influence. Niccolo Machiavelli understood the long game of positioning. Power does not require dramatic force if your presence becomes embedded in the system. When you are consistently present, decisions start forming around you. Conversations factor you in. Opportunities begin aligning with your established pattern. That is compounding influence. It does not demand attention. It creates inevitability. Each small action strengthens your foundation. Each repetition reinforces your image. Over time, your position becomes harder to ignore and even harder to replace. The person who waits for a grand opportunity remains dependent on chance. The person who improves daily reduces reliance on luck. They shape their own leverage gradually. Compounding works silently. There is no applause during accumulation, no recognition during foundation building. But once the structure becomes visible, it appears solid and immovable. Small moves, sustained long enough, create permanent positioning, and permanent positioning reshapes hierarchy. The influence feels sudden to observers. In reality, it was constructed patiently, one controlled action at a time. Outlasting the ambitious, why most people self-destruct. Ambition looks impressive at first. It speaks loudly. It moves fast. It promises transformation. When someone is ambitious, their energy fills the room. They talk about goals aggressively. They plan aggressively. They act aggressively. For a while, that intensity works. But intensity without control becomes self-destructive. Ambitious people often confuse speed with progress. They push hard in short bursts, stretch beyond capacity, and demand immediate results. When outcomes don't match expectation, frustration builds. Frustration turns into impatience. Impatience leads to reckless decisions. This is where collapse begins. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that unchecked ambition destabilizes judgment. When desire for rapid advancement overrides structure, mistakes multiply. Emotional decisions replace calculated ones. Overexposure replaces strategic silence, and opponents wait for that. Consistency does not burn out, it regulates itself. It accepts gradual growth, it tolerates slow returns. It survives boredom without panicking. Ambition seeks validation quickly. Consistency seeks positioning steadily. Over time, ambitious individuals exhaust themselves. They chase new directions. They abandon systems. They reinvent constantly. That reinvention looks innovative, but it prevents depth. They never stay long enough in one direction to dominate it. Meanwhile, the disciplined individual continues along a single path, refining, adjusting, reinforcing. The pace may not be dramatic, but it is sustainable. Sustainability defeats volatility. When others surge and collapse repeatedly, your stable presence becomes powerful. You are not forced to restart. You are not rebuilding identity every few months. You are strengthening the same foundation. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because they cannot regulate ambition. Outlasting them does not require greater talent. It requires greater control. And control, sustained over time, quietly eliminates competition without confrontation. The long game strategy: when your pattern becomes power, Short-term thinking creates noise. Long-term thinking creates position. Most people operate in cycles. They focus on immediate results, immediate validation, immediate advantage. Their decisions are shaped by what benefits them now, not what strengthens them later. That mindset limits leverage. The long-game strategy works differently. It prioritizes sustainability over excitement. It values stability over sudden growth. It understands that influence expands gradually when actions remain aligned over time. Niccolo Machiavelli understood positioning as a long-term construct. Power is rarely seized in one dramatic move. It is accumulated through consistent alignment of effort, reputation, and restraint. When your behavior becomes stable, others begin predicting your reliability. Prediction creates trust. Trust creates influence. And influence, when repeated long enough, reshapes hierarchy. This is where pattern becomes power. When you act consistently over years instead of weeks, your behavior becomes embedded in perception. People no longer see your effort as temporary ambition. They see it as identity. Identity shifts how they respond to you. They expect your presence. They anticipate your discipline. Anticipation changes dynamics. Opponents hesitate because they know you will not disappear. Allies rely on you because they know you will not collapse. Opportunities align because your trajectory is clear. The long game removes emotional volatility. It reduces impulsive decisions. It replaces reaction with calculated continuation. While others chase quick wins, you accumulate durable advantage. While they celebrate early victories, you build structural dominance. Over time, the pattern itself becomes intimidating, not because it is dramatic, because it is inevitable. When your actions form a stable trajectory that cannot be easily disrupted, you no longer compete for attention, you command position. And once your pattern becomes power, momentum works in your favor permanently. Most people will hear this, feel motivated for a moment, and then return to old habits. That's the difference. Consistency isn't exciting. It isn't glamorous. It doesn't deliver instant validation. But over time, it quietly reshapes hierarchy. The ones who depend on motivation will fluctuate. The ones who depend on structure will advance. And advancement, sustained long enough, becomes power. If this shifted your perspective, press like so this message reaches others who need discipline more than inspiration. Comment the word endure below if you're committing to the long game. Share this with someone who confuses ambition with control. And subscribe, because the next breakdown goes deeper into strategy most people never study. Short bursts impress, long patterns dominate. I'll see you in the next one.